Good evening, Brittany. Thank you for your time and willingness to join me today. Before we delve into the details, I'd like to address a few things to set up our conversation for success. As you know, my name is Dana James. I am the hiring manager for this role. I am an Ohio girl born and raised. I've been in big banking for 6 years, and I've been overseeing this department for two. I will be conducting your interview today for the quality analyst role here at JP Morgan Chase, and we are going to record this for reference purposes. Is that okay with you?
It is, yes.
All right, let me start that recording now. Now, just for awareness, I am going to ask you a series of 10 questions to get a better understanding of your prior experience and visualize how well you would fit in this role. We're going to start with broader questions and then get more specific to gauge skill sets. I believe we can get through this in about 20 minutes, but I'm in no way rushing you. I want you to provide your honest answers. And if you need me to repeat a question or rephrase something for comprehension, that is completely okay and not viewed as a bad thing in any way. Any questions before we begin?
No, let's do it.
All right. So the first question, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, as you know, my name is Brittany Kusher, and I have worked in big banking for 3 years. So, I am currently employed by Citibank. Prior to my time at Citibank, I worked at Fifth Third in a project management capacity and role. Um, After leaving Fifth Third, I transitioned to Citibank, and I am in my current position as a quality analyst. And I am looking just for an opportunity for growth and change and to continue to expand my diaspora of experience in the banking world.
All right, beautiful. Where do you see yourself professionally in the next 5 years?
Such a good question. So, um, I have many more years ahead of me than just 5, that is for certain. But when I think about the next 5 years, I'm looking to grow into a people management position in particular. Right now, I'm in an individual contributor role. And I have spent the past 3 years in banking trying to hone my expertise not only in the industry, but also in the quality management space. So once I feel as though I've kind of proclaimed my level of expertise and just myself as a subject matter expert in all things quality management, I'd like to be able to give back and share the things that I've learned over the past couple of years. And I think a really great way to do that is to continue to get promoted within whatever organization I'm working for in a people management capacity.
That was a really good answer. I love the humanitarian aspects.
Thank you.
So the next question, we're still broad here. What motivated you to apply for this role?
Another great question. So I think I previously mentioned that I'm looking to continue to grow my skill set. And in particular, I'm really interested in the banking that JP Morgan does. As one of the oldest and largest banks in the United States, they have a very wide reach, and their reach is not just limited to the United States, it's also global. So I see a lot of potential there, upward mobility, if you will. And this is maybe even expanding beyond my 5-year career trajectory for myself. Now we're probably talking 10 to 15 years, but I think this is a good move, a nice lateral move for me to be able to break into the banking world at JP Morgan Chase and then continue to grow upwards with your organization.
All right, thank you. And this will be our last broad question. What skills do you have that differentiate you from other candidates?
A heavy hitter. So thinking in the quality space in particular, I think it's very common for individuals to have a high level of experience and expertise with all things process and of course data quality related, or product quality related, depending on where you fall and what your industry expertise is. But for me in particular, because I do have project management experience from my past life many moons ago, I think I bring a very unique organizational capacity. I'm very used to working in the agile project management framework. It's something that's just kind of been embedded within me, if you will. And so, although I no longer function by title as a project manager, I do have a high level of project management expertise, and that kind of comes out naturally in my organizational skills and abilities. It also comes out in a way when I'm trying to manage relationships with others, whether they're direct reports or coworkers. And so I would say that that's a unique skill that I bring that I don't know that I have seen with all of my colleagues in the quality space. And I'm very proud to continue to contribute the skills that I've adopted from previous experience roles and past lives.
Really cool. Real quick, where was this that you did majority project management work?
That was at Fifth Third before I was at Citibank.
Oh,
So
yeah.
still in the banking world.
Yes. Sorry about that. Thank you. You did mention that. Next question. This is where we're starting to get into the specifics of just kind of gauging skill sets. So how do you prioritize and manage your tasks and responsibilities to meet deadlines?
Oh, well, this is a really good segue from my last response. So Excel is my best friend, and project plans really help me stay organized, even if I'm not running a project necessarily. Like I said, I think I just innately adopt those organizational skills, and I do try to keep all of my work and timelines very gridlocked, realistic. And I would say that I am very collaborative in nature when trying to organize myself, especially when I'm developing, we'll call them mini project plans for the execution of tasks. But these project plans could be as simple as a to-do list, if I'm being quite honest. Sometimes you just need to start your day and really get organized with your high priority tasks. And I also like to utilize time blocking structures. So when I sit down and analyze the work that I need to complete for the day, I try to identify how long I believe that task is going to take. And then I also assign it a priority level. And based on the priority level and then the time allocations that I have within my calendar in the day, I try to allocate activities and tasks accordingly.
Really good. That's very meticulous of you. I'm sure that it's been able to help you bring your work forward a lot easier as you've been moving in the corporate world. My next question is, how do you build and maintain strong working relationships with colleagues and stakeholders?
I love this question. So to my understanding, JP Morgan is operating under a hybrid structure right now. That is something that I am very much so used to coming into this new age world. Some people will call this BC, or before COVID, and then like after COVID AC. So in this after COVID world, it is a little bit more difficult, I'll say, to develop organic relationships that you can leverage in the workplace, especially networking wise. But I have found that you just have to be more intentional with the time that you get with your colleagues and stakeholders. So organization obviously helps when you're managing stakeholders and trying to deliver news and messaging, presentations and such. You should always go into conversations with intentionality, be prepared, etc., because time is limited. But as far as like building authentic relationships, when we are in the office, I try to be intentional about gathering everybody together in a conference room to be collaborative. If we need to do so virtually, let's all come together on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. It looks like JP is utilizing Zoom, and just start brainstorming. But yeah, I would say it's been a bit of a challenge, if I'm being quite frank, to shift from being completely remote to then being hybrid, and who knows what the next 5 to 10 years will look like and how we adapt accordingly. But I do think it's really important to invest in those relationships in the best way that you can, because if you have strong relationships, they just go to serve you when you're managing your work. It's not just necessarily about building friendships, if you will, at work. It's truly about managing your stakeholders and establishing collaborative working relationships with people.
Okay, really good. I kind of follow that same notion when I am in the office. I do try to have more of my meetings in person or collaborate whenever possible, just so that we can keep that open communication and just kind of further develop what we have going on. So I appreciate that. That's something that is also being done by you in the corporate world. So our next question, can you share your understanding of quality management best practices and how you've applied them in your previous roles?
Yes. So quality management is driven, at least in the banking world, from what I've experienced, by three things. So processes, which could fall under the umbrella of process improvement, depending on what lens you're looking at things from. Um, Assurance, and I'm going to say people management. That one may be a little looser. However, I do think there's a stakeholder component here, especially in the world of banking. If we're thinking about quality data, there is always a customer or a client. Although the client or customer may be internal to us, we are taking quality data from some aspect of our business. We are analyzing it. We are trying to optimize processes. We are trying to make things better for maybe our customer in the field, or just their business practices to be able to run as efficiently as possible. And so when breaking each one of those aspects down, I think they do work together. They are very interdependent upon one another. But as far as best practices go, I think everything should really be process driven and process oriented, because when you have a process and it's established, it's easier to not only maintain that process, but identify deficiencies or inefficiencies and then be able to further optimize, which starts to not only get into maintaining your process, but also process improvement. And then as far as the people management capacity goes with managing stakeholder groups, it's really important to encourage your stakeholder groups to come along with you in the process. When you're trying to implement change, I'll say, so this could be, we are recommending enhancements to an already established business process, and that has been in existence for months, maybe even years, and it's working well. So if it's not broke, let's not fix it. However, I think when we look at this from the lens of a change adoption model, which is where that people management and just understanding people in general comes in, it's important to bring them along in the journey and help them understand how we are getting from plan A to plan B and what the benefits are for them. So I don't think we can focus on process improvements or truly even data quality unless we are bringing our clients or our stakeholders along for the ride. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, it did. Thank you. So the next question, this is more so about communication skills. Can you describe a challenging situation where your communication skills were pivotal in resolving a problem or achieving a specific goal?
Yes. So thinking back to my project management days, I was very much so positioned in my role as a liaison. So between our business stakeholders and our technical developers. So at the time, I was a project manager for product development at Fifth Third. And oftentimes it can be difficult to communicate with both the business and the technical side of the business, um, to ensure that everybody is speaking the same language. We are on target to hit our timelines, we're reaching our milestones, things of that nature. Product implementations rarely go without hiccups. I have never in the history of product implementations heard of one going swimmingly and there never being a problem that needs to be resolved. So in this particular instance, we were behind schedule and our UAT testing was falling dramatically behind with test cases. Our business stakeholders were trying to explain the issues that were being had by way of raising bugs in our project management system. And our technical developers were not understanding where the deficiencies were in the product. At the time, it was my job to be able to bridge the gap communication-wise between the technical jargon and the business or layman's terms that the business was trying to speak, to ensure that we were able to deliver our end result with as little delay as possible. That required a number of meetings, both live with the technical developers as well as the business representatives, to go over data requirements. And that was a lot of facilitation on my end. It was at my time my primary role to understand enough technical jargon to be able to translate that for the business, and then back, if you will, I was serving as a translator and be able to continue to drive progress in this space. It was difficult. We ended up obviously releasing the product on time, luckily, but it wasn't without a significant amount of delays that we were able to make up for later on in the process because of the agile project management framework. But I do think that there is an art to it, and a bit of my communication expertise just comes in from really slowing down and understanding what the problem set is, if you will, trying to get to the root cause of a problem, and then working through it with the appropriate parties in the room and trying to be able to facilitate conversations in the direction in which I think we need to be headed.
That is a really great answer. And I love how you brought up root cause analysis. As I'm sure you're aware, that is a big portion of quality management and just quality assurance processes, no matter what you are trying to improve. So to hear that you were able to use your communication skills in such a way to be that liaison and include your overall knowledge of quality management in the practice of getting that to get where it needed to be, it just speaks a lot about your experience. Thank you for sharing that.
Happy to.
So our next question, can you give me an example of a situation where you identified a potential issue or opportunity before it became apparent to others and took proactive steps to address it?
This is actually a very recent example. I am currently leading a sidebar project at work, and this is a stretch assignment for myself, to be very transparent. I am leading a team as a project manager, which I have some experience in, but not necessarily in this space. And the way that our projects are structured here are a little bit different, and we're not necessarily talking about product delivery. So there is a bit of adaptation that is needed, although I am leveraging some of my project management skill set here. It's still a stretch assignment for me, and I'm overseeing a cross-functional team of individuals who do not directly report to me. And as I was delegating out tasks, I recognized that the tasks were not evenly distributed amongst each one of the team members. And the tasks were distributed based upon business unit. And unfortunately, this individual was overseeing a specific business unit that had probably 10 times the amount of cases that any of the other delegates had. And it was a huge concern to me as I was developing out the project plan and trying to allocate work and forecasting what our milestones would be. I just recognized that the work was just really unbearable and inequitable across the entire team. And unfortunately, there were no members of the team actively that could step in because of the differentiation of business units. So I raised this as a risk to my project sponsor, and I initiated a conversation between myself, my project sponsor, the individual on the team who is overseeing this business unit and all of these tasks, and their manager, to be able to identify if there were any other resources in the business that we could allocate some of the tasks or responsibilities to, to be able to share the workload. Otherwise, my backup solution was going to be that I would like to be upskilled in this space to be able to provide additional support and bandwidth capacity for this resource. Unfortunately, the conversation hasn't quite happened yet, so I can't tell you what the results are, but this is a very ironic question because this is all late breaking as of this week. So I appreciate you for asking. And I hope that gives you enough to answer the question without the scenario having actually unfolded itself.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think it speaks a lot to your organization level and also your ability to forecast the problem, to kind of see that ahead of time before you get too deep into your project. And also just like your ability to be like a very collaborative team member, by wanting to upskill if there isn't any additional resources as a backup. I think speaks volumes to like your drive to be able to see things through from end to end. So thank you for providing that. Mhm. Now, this will be our final question. How do you handle tasks that require a high level of attention to detail? And can you provide an example of a project where the skill was essential?
Yes. Heads down time. So I had mentioned that I utilize the time blocking strategy. I would imagine if I have a task that I know is going to require uh, a high level of focus and attention to detail from myself, I'm going to highly prioritize that task. I typically do try to protect my calendar for at least an hour or so of focus time every day. But if the task warrants longer than that, then I am, of course, going to extend that time. During heads down focus time, I do try to ignore pings and emails as much as possible. I will update any platforms that we're using so people know that I'm going heads down for focus time, and will be as communicative with my team as possible to ensure that I'm not allowing slippage for any other tasks or responsibilities. But I do really try to designate time to allow myself the space to truly focus, especially if I'm getting into data, we'll say, that requires a high level of detail orientation. Other than that, I guess an example that I can use is some data analysis that I recently did for a QA project. So I had the responsibility of evaluating some quality data from one of our business units and turning that data around, identifying some trends, and then presenting that back to the business for our quarterly review. And we have had some hiccups with this business unit in the past. And so I anticipated that there were going to be discrepancies in the data that I needed to pay special attention to. And then I needed to be able to return back to my analysis and articulate messaging and essentially craft a story to deliver that to the business unit leaders, to be able to focus on the process improvement that we would be focusing on in Q2 of this year. And I won't tell a lie, it was a bit challenging, just given the magnitude of the data and the fact that I had to tap into some SQL skills that I have. But overall, it was very successful. I try to, again, stay organized when doing data analysis and focus on the data at hand, and then shift over, summarize my findings, and then allocate the information that I've taken from my summarizations and turn that into a story or craft a message to be able to deliver to business leaders.
All right, thank you. If you'll bear with me just a moment, I just want to type up the last bit of my notes. All right. So that does conclude the interview. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with me today. Your responses have provided valuable insights into your qualifications and suitability for the quality analyst role. I really appreciated, how you incorporated some of your knowledge of just the quality management processes in general into the way you answered some of your questions, especially bringing up that RCCA issue, or how you implemented RCCA into one of your tasks. I think it was also really cool to hear about your experiences as a project manager back from you at Fifth Third. A lot of people don't know this, but quality assurance, I'm sure as you know, is very project heavy. So I think that those are things that will definitely help drive you forward in this role. I just want to let you know at the start of the session, or just reiterate that we did record this session. And I can assure you that we are not going to be using this outside of internal purposes for reference when making final decisions on this requisition. So I am going to end the recording now. There we go. I truly appreciate your time and effort in participating in this interview.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.